Okay, picture this. It's late Tuesday night. Sarah, she's a successful life coach, and she's prepping for her third live webinar this week.
Mm-hmm.
She's already had a full day of one-on-one calls, answered loads of emails, and, well, now she's about to teach the same core concepts she feels like she's taught hundreds of times.
Right.
Does that whole scenario sound familiar to you listening? Maybe that feeling of being, stuck on repeat?
It's a situation that plays out all the time across the coaching industry. And it's actually what the source material we're diving into today calls the hidden crisis in the coaching industry.
The hidden crisis.
Yeah, it really zeroes in on this paradox. You have these deeply passionate professionals. They're driven to transform lives, but they find themselves hitting this, well, what feels like an invisible wall. The source labels it the scalability trap.
The scalability trap. That's the core problem laid out right there, isn't it?
Exactly.
Coaches get into this work because they want to make a real impact, a big difference. But they pretty quickly discover their most valuable asset. Their time is also their biggest constraint. The source material makes a really pointed observation here. The traditional coaching model, it fundamentally trades time for money, usually one-to-one.
Right, that direct trade.
Yeah, and it describes it as creating this sort of invisible wall that stops them from truly expanding their reach.
And the consequence, well, it isn't just limited impact, it's significant personal cost, too. The source highlights some stats that are quite revealing. Almost 3/4 of coaches, 73%, report feeling overwhelmed by their workload.
Wow, 73%. That's incredibly high.
It is. And 68% struggle specifically with just maintaining work-life balance while they're trying to grow their business. And the source points out the painful irony here. These are professionals, dedicated to helping others find balance and thrive.
Right.
Yet they're often losing their own well-being in the process. They feel like they're constantly on, fielding client questions around the clock and often grappling with guilt if they take time off.
Why the guilt?
Well, because their presence is so directly tied to their income and also to their clients' progress in that traditional model.
That paints a really challenging picture, and I guess the source suggests maybe the biggest cost of all is that lost potential impact.
Exactly. While they're stuck in this really demanding loop, repeating content to small groups or individuals, there are thousands of people out there who could genuinely benefit from their unique expertise.
But they never get the chance.
They never get the chance. It's like their knowledge is kind of locked within this time-constrained model, serving, maybe dozens instead of potentially reaching thousands.
Okay.
Precisely. And that's the central dilemma this deep dive is really here to unpack. Our mission, drawing straight from the source material, is to understand this time constraint trap properly and then explore the potential solutions it presents for coaches to break free.
Yeah.
How, according to this source, can you reach thousands instead of just dozens without constantly sacrificing your precious time for every single unit of impact?
Okay, let's unpack this time constraint trap a bit more then, because the source does some pretty illuminating math.
Yeah, it does.
If you're coaching, say, 5 one-hour sessions a day, 5 days a week, well, that's 25 hours of direct client contact.
Right.
But then you have to add in all the time for prep, follow-up, admin tasks, marketing, content creation.
All the other stuff.
Yeah. The source calculates you're easily looking at 50 to 60 hours a week. And at that pace, maybe you can realistically work with, 100, perhaps 150 clients per year max?
And trying to scale that model, according to the source, well, to double your impact, you'd basically need to double your working hours.
Which is impossible.
Pretty much. To reach, say, 1,000 people a year, the source just states the traditional math simply doesn't work. It requires either, cloning yourself or completely sacrificing your personal life and sleep.
And the source points out a common mistake here too, doesn't it? Many coaches think scaling just means doing more of the same stuff.
Exactly. More live sessions, maybe hiring assistant coaches to deliver the same model.
Right.
But the source argues this often just creates a more complex version of the fundamental problem. You're still, at the end of the day, trading time for impact. This is where the source material really pivots and presents what it calls a paradigm shift.
Okay, a paradigm shift.
Yeah. It suggests the real solution isn't working harder within the existing model, but working differently. The most successful coaches in the coming decade, it argues, they won't be the ones doing the most live sessions.
So who will they be?
They'll be the ones who build systems. Systems capable of teaching, coaching, and facilitating transformation, even when they aren't actively present in real time.
Systems that can work and create impact even while you're, say, sleeping or on vacation. That sounds like a significant shift.
It really, really is. It requires coaches to think about their expertise not just as a personal service delivered live, but as a transferable methodology.
Okay, transferable methodology.
Yeah, your unique insights, the proven frameworks you use, the specific transformational processes you guide clients through the source, contends that these elements don't require your live presence all the time to be effective for learning and change.
Hmm.
What they require is for your expertise to be captured, structured, and delivered in ways that can replicate those aha moments and breakthroughs you facilitate live.
Kind of like, well, the source mentions historical figures or influential teachers whose impact scaled because their wisdom got captured, maybe embedded into systems like books that could operate independently of their direct time.
Exactly like that. And the key to enabling this, according to the source, is embracing what they term the asynchronous advantage.
Asynchronous. Okay, meaning not happening simultaneously in real time. So what are the big benefits of operating this way, according to the source?
Well, the source outlines several pretty compelling advantages. First, there's accessibility.
Right.
Your students can access your content and your coaching methodologies precisely when it works best for them, not just when your calendar happens to line up with theirs.
So late at night, commute, weekend, whenever.
Exactly. Fitting learning really seamlessly into their lives, much more flexible for the learner.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Then there's the power of repetition and review. Think
Mhm.
about it. In a live session, if a student misses a key point, or maybe needs more time for a concept to sink in,
That moment might just be lost.
it might be lost. With well-designed asynchronous content, though, they can pause, rewind, replay until the concept truly clicks. And that can lead to potentially deeper understanding and retention.
That's a huge benefit for actually learning and integrating the material, isn't it?
Absolutely. And another major advantage is global reach.
Ah, time zones.
Time zones effectively disappear as a barrier. Your 2 a.m. might be someone's perfect learning window halfway across the world. Your reach isn't confined by geography anymore, or the practical limits of scheduling across different zones. You can go from impacting your local community to potentially people across continents.
That's powerful.
Yeah. Consistency is also a critical advantage the source highlights. Let's be honest, even the best coaches have off days, right?
Sure, moments when you're not quite 100%.
Exactly. Asynchronous content lets you capture your absolute clearest explanations, your most impactful delivery, and then deliver that optimal version consistently to every single student, every single time.
So every learner gets the absolute A-game version of your content.
Precisely. And finally, maybe the most relevant point for scalability is scale without dilution.
Scale without dilution.
Meaning the source emphasizes your 1,000th student receives the exact same high quality of instruction and access to your method as your very first student did. The value isn't diluted or compromised because you're spread thin or tired.
Okay, the advantages of this asynchronous approach are pretty clear. But how does a coach actually do this? How do they implement it? The source talks about building a knowledge transfer system. What does that actually entail? It's more than just recording videos, right?
Oh, definitely. That's a crucial distinction the source makes.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not just pointing a camera at yourself talking for an hour.
Right.
Building a knowledge transfer system, according to the source, demands a very deliberate, systematic approach. It's designed specifically to replicate the transformation you create live.
Okay.
It starts with clearly identifying and articulating your core transformation framework, that step-by-step process, your unique methodology that you guide clients through. That's your essential IP, your intellectual property.
So really breaking down your unique approach, your secret sauce, so to speak.
Exactly, your secret sauce, and then methodically breaking that down into digestible, sequential modules. The source uses this analogy of building a building. You need a solid foundation first,
Yeah.
then you add the floors layer by layer.
Right, you can't put the roof on before the walls are up. Makes sense.
Exactly. Each module or section should focus on addressing one specific piece of the transformation or one key skill. However, and this is important, the source gives a strong warning here, don't simply try to recreate the live coaching experience directly on video or in text.
Meaning, don't just record yourself lecturing for an hour like you might do live.
Right. That's generally not the most effective way asynchronously. It's about strategically leveraging the strengths of the medium.
Okay, so what does that look like?
The source suggests incorporating elements like interactive exercises, maybe choose your own adventure style paths
Right.
based on a student-specific situation.
Oh, interesting.
Structured reflection exercises that give students the time they need to process and integrate the material at their own pace. Things that make it engaging.
So making it engaging in ways that might actually be more effective for some learners than a purely live format sometimes.
Potentially, yes. The source also outlines a specific content architecture that works, a structure for these modules.
Okay, a content architecture. What does that structure look like?
It's a proposed structure designed to maximize learning, retention, and ultimately transformation. The source suggests every piece of content or every module section should ideally follow this kind of flow.
All right.
Start with a hook and context. Immediately answer the question, why does this specific piece of information matter to me right now? Get their attention.
Grab them up front. Okay.
Then, introduce the concept simply. State the core idea clearly and concisely. Don't over-explain initially. Just get the big picture across first.
Got it. Big picture first.
Yes. Then comes the deep dive. This is where you expand. Detailed explanations, examples, case studies, maybe delve into the how and the why. This section is where your expertise really shines and adds the depth.
Right. This is where we get into the crucial details.
Exactly. Followed by application, providing specific, actionable steps the learner can take immediately based on what they've just learned. The source really stresses this. Theory without application often leads to, knowledge acquisition.
But not actual transformation.
Right. Not real change. So they need to be able to do something with the information.
Makes sense. Application. What's next?
Next is integration. Help students connect this new piece of learning to their existing knowledge, to their previous progress in the system, and to their overall goals. Show them how this fits into their bigger journey.
Ah, connecting the dots.
Precisely. And finally, reinforcement. End by summarizing the key takeaways from that specific piece of content and maybe previewing what's coming next. Keep the momentum going, clarify the path forward.
Hook. Concept simply, deep dive, application, integration, reinforcement. That structure seems really effective for guiding a learner through complex stuff systematically.
Yeah, the source argues it works well.
And the source points out that technology is absolutely central to making this shift possible today.
Yes, it's presented as a critical enabler. Modern technology, and particularly AI-powered tools, are highlighted as a genuine game changer for creating and managing these systems.
How so?
Well, you have learning management systems, LMS, that can handle the delivery and track student progress. You have integrated tools or chatbots that can answer common questions asynchronously. Analytics can show coaches where students might be struggling or dropping off.
So technology acts like your teaching assistant, handling a lot of the administrative and logistical load.
Exactly that. A teaching assistant is a good way to put it. And the source is particularly enthusiastic about the potential of AI-powered course creation tools.
Oh, okay.
These platforms, it argues, can take a coach's existing expertise, their notes, recordings, outlines, frameworks, and help transform them into comprehensive, engaging learning experiences pretty efficiently, often without the coach needing to become a video production guru or a professional instructional designer themselves.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. The source talks about the AI course creator revolution. What does that look like in practice? How does that actually work?
Well, the source describes these tools as capable of significantly speeding up the process. You basically provide your raw core content, maybe transcriptions of live sessions you've done, your standard workshop slides, maybe just audio notes or detailed outlines.
Your existing stuff.
The AI analyzes this raw material, helps identify the key learning objectives within it, and then assists in structuring it into a cohesive sequential curriculum, something that mirrors your natural teaching flow and maybe that content architecture we just talked about.
So it helps build that systematic structure, almost like building the framework of the building for you based on your blueprints.
That's a really good analogy, yeah. And the source says it goes beyond just organizing existing content, too.
Oh.
More advanced tools can suggest or even help generate interactive elements, create quizzes or assessments designed to test for true understanding and application, not just memorization.
Right, the application part again.
Exactly. And some can even help develop personalized learning paths that might adapt slightly based on a student's input or their learning pace.
Wow, so it can still feel somewhat tailored or personalized to the individual student, even though you're not interacting with them live in that exact moment.
That's the goal, according to the source. For the system to deliver the same kind of breakthrough insights and transformational outcomes that a student would get from working with you directly, but now at scale. The source provides a really compelling case study, actually. a business coach named Maria.
Ah, yes, the example of moving from burnout to breakthrough. I remember reading that.
Oh, exactly. Maria was working crazy hours, 70-hour weeks apparently,
Wow.
largely repeating foundational business strategy concepts in one-on-one sessions. She was experiencing, significant burnout.
Understandable.
So she used an AI-powered platform to take her proven 7-step business transformation framework and turn it into a comprehensive online course. It had pre-recorded video lessons, downloadable worksheets, case studies, an integrated community forum. The works.
And what kind of results did she see from making that shift? What happened?
The source reports that within just 6 months of launching her course, over 500 students had enrolled.
506 months.
Yeah. And crucially, her own data and student testimonials indicated that learners were achieving the same core breakthrough results that her one-on-one clients experienced. She successfully transferred her core methodology into a scalable system.
That's incredible. And what did that mean for her personally, her own schedule and well-being?
Her reported working hours dropped dramatically, down about 15 hours a week, apparently.
From 70 down to 15.
Yeah, focused mainly on just managing the course, engaging in the community forum, running periodic group Q&A sessions. The source states her income tripled, and she was impacting 10 times more lives while simultaneously reclaiming her time and achieving much better work-life balance.
That is a really powerful example of breaking that time constraint trap using this asynchronous system-based approach.
It really highlights the potential.
But let's address something listeners might be thinking right now. What about the human connection? That's such a fundamental and often really crucial part of coaching, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And the source material acknowledges this directly. It's a very valid concern.
Yeah.
However, the source argues it's not about removing the human connection altogether, but rather restructuring where and how that connection happens.
Restructuring it. How?
The key, according to the source, is deliberately designing meaningful connection points into the asynchronous system itself.
Okay, like what?
This could include things like scheduled live Q&A sessions where you focus on answering more advanced or specific questions that maybe aren't covered in the core material, or fostering active private online communities where students can connect with each other and potentially with you too, or even setting up specific office hours for drop-in questions.
Ah, okay, so you're still interacting directly, but your limited live time is used much more strategically, much more efficiently, focusing on that higher level support or community building rather than just repeating the core lessons over and over.
Exactly. You leverage technology for the scalable knowledge transfer part, and then you use your precious live time for the high value, the nuanced, the truly personal interactions that are most impactful and frankly cannot be easily systematized.
That makes a lot of sense. This shift sounds incredibly beneficial, but the source also touches on common obstacles coaches face when they consider this, right? What are the typical hurdles mentioned?
Yeah, it does. Perfectionism is highlighted as a major one.
Ah, perfectionism.
Coaches often worry that their content won't be good enough or clear enough without their immediate live presence there to clarify or elaborate on the fly.
Right, that fear of putting something imperfect out there.
Exactly. The source's counter advice here is quite practical, though. Your first course or your first system module, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. It just needs to be genuinely helpful and deliver transformation. You can always refine it and improve it based on real-world student feedback over time. Don't let the perfect become the enemy of the good, especially when launching.
Good face.
What else?
Yeah.
Fear of technology is another very common barrier mentioned. Getting started with new platforms or even just understanding the options can feel, pretty overwhelming.
Totally. Tech overwhelm is real.
It is. But the source emphasizes that this is precisely where the newer AI-powered solutions aim to help. They are designed to handle much of the technical complexity of structuring and packaging the content,
Right.
allowing the coach to stay focused on what they do best, the actual coaching and the transformation methodology itself.
Okay.
And finally, pricing can be an obstacle. Coaches sometimes struggle with how to price an asynchronous offer compared to, say, their hourly rate.
Yeah, how do you value something that isn't directly tied to your time in the same way?
The source's guidance here is really clear. Price based on the value delivered and the transformation achieved, not based purely on the time you invested making it or the time the students spent consuming it. If your asynchronous system delivers the same level of transformation as your one-on-one work, the source argues it should be valued accordingly.
That makes sense. Focus on the outcome for the client. That's what matters most, regardless of the delivery mechanism.
Precisely. And the source expands on this, discussing the broader impact, what it terms the ripple effect of scalable impact.
The ripple effect. Okay.
By making your methodology available asynchronously, you open access to potentially thousands of individuals who might never have been able to afford your one-on-one rates, or who live in different geographic regions with incompatible time zones.
So democratization of access in a way.
In a way, yes. The source suggests this shift also benefits the coaching industry itself. By standardizing proven methodologies, it could potentially improve overall quality across the profession and enhance its credibility.
And you could argue there are environmental benefits too, couldn't you? Less travel, less need for physical spaces sometimes.
Absolutely, that's a fair point. The source also positions this shift as essential for future-proofing your coaching business.
Future-proofing? How so?
It states quite directly that this move towards leveraged, scalable models isn't just some passing trend. It's presented as the future direction of the industry.
Right.
Coaches who proactively adapt now, the source suggests, will build significant experience and market position advantages over those who wait too long.
Especially considering, well, recent global events really highlighted the vulnerability of businesses tied solely to in-person or real-time interaction. Asynchronous models showed remarkable resilience during that time.
That's a very relevant point. And as AI technology continues to evolve so rapidly, the tools for creating and managing these systems will only become more powerful and more accessible. The source actually provides a pretty straightforward transformation roadmap for coaches looking to get started on this path.
Okay, a roadmap. What are the key steps in that?
First, the source recommends auditing your existing methodology. Really clearly identify your core frameworks, your signature processes, the specific transformations you consistently help clients achieve. Know what you do best.
Nail down your core value.
Exactly. Second, prioritize which pieces of that methodology to systemize first. Maybe based on where you see the most recurring needs from clients or where you have your most impactful content already.
So start with the topics you're asked about most often or where your best results are. Makes sense.
Precisely. Next, research and choose a suitable technology platform. Specifically looking for tools with those integrated AI capabilities that can help streamline the content creation and structuring process.
Leverage the tech.
Leverage the tech. The source advises starting by building one comprehensive, high-quality course or system. Focus on delivering one specific transformation exceptionally well, rather than trying to digitize absolutely everything you know all at once.
Focus on doing one thing really well first. Don't boil the ocean.
Yes, exactly. And finally, plan your transition strategically. The source makes it clear you don't have to, abandon live coaching overnight.
Okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah. You can start by gradually replacing maybe your most repetitive live sessions with asynchronous options, freeing up your time bit by bit, and then expand your asynchronous offerings over time as you gain confidence and see results.
That sounds like a manageable path. The source material really seems to land hard on this point. The time is now.
It really does. It makes a compelling case that every day you wait is potentially a day of limited impact and continued personal overwhelm. The technology, including these powerful AI platforms, it exists today to transform your knowledge and experience into systems that can teach and transform lives at scale. And these tools have significantly lowered many of the technical barriers that might have existed even just a few years ago.
It's like your expertise, your unique way of helping people. It's almost too valuable to remain locked within the constraint of just your individual schedule.
That's a great way to put it.
Your insights deserve to reach everyone who could benefit, not just those who can afford your limited hourly availability or fit into your calendar.
And the source concludes that the coaches, who will not only survive, but truly thrive in the coming years.
Yeah.
They're the ones who recognize that their greatest contribution isn't measured just in the hours they work,
But in what?
but in the reach and the effectiveness of their transformational methodology. Systematizing and scaling that methodology is presented as the path to creating a legacy of impact far, far beyond anything achievable through that old one-to-one time-constrained model.
So perhaps the question isn't really whether this shift can happen anymore, but whether you, listening right now, are ready to embrace the possibility of multiplying your impact while potentially reclaiming your time and your freedom.
The tools are here. The demand for accessible transformation is, frankly, immense, and your expertise is needed at scale. The source really frames this current moment as a crossroads for the industry.
A choice point.
Yeah, continue down the traditional path that often leads to burnout and limited reach, or consciously choose the path of scalable impact by leveraging technology and building systems.
And the source suggests that while that choice is individual, the window for becoming an early adopter, for building significant momentum, well, that window is happening right now.
Hmm.
Your future clients need your unique approach. The world needs the transformation you offer, and you yourself probably need a business model that allows you to deliver both without sacrificing your own well-being in the process.
It's really no longer a question of technical feasibility. The technology exists today to teach and transform thousands without requiring constant live presence. The fundamental question remaining, according to the source, it's whether you are ready to embrace this possibility, to transform not just your business, but the very way you make a difference in the world.
And that brings us directly to the powerful, forward-looking question that the source material leaves us with, something for you to really consider after this deep dive. Your scalable coaching future starts now. The only question remaining is, how many lives will you transform this year?